The internet. One of mankind's greatest inventions since the wheel, sliced bread, deodorant, and Greggs. The internet is perfect for so many things, from sending files across the globe, to watching your favourite sitcom for the 4th time in a row, to reading fan fictions where your favourite childhood characters commit unspeakable acts with a tub of margarine. Aside from likely being a punishment from some unknown deity for wantonly beholding the power of computers without limit, the online ecosystem is an epicentre for communication among both friends and strangers. Thanks to social media and other online platforms, anyone has the potential to make their lives open to millions. And in a world where everyone has a platform, we all have to manage our... Stop that. Turn it down a bit. Thank you very much. And in a world where everyone has a platform, we all have to manage... Stop! We all have to manage our own presence. Approximately 3.6 billion people worldwide use some form of social media, and while granted a sizable portion of that probably chalks up to older people getting WhatsApp or Facebook to keep in touch with their family or to share some god-awful minion memes, an even greater majority of that is probably younger people, teenagers and even children. But surely the intention behind this World Wide Web wasn't to just let every farmer and their mum live tweet along to the finale of Bake Off. So why was it created? And more importantly, who created it? I'm serious, who created the internet? I really want to know. I just want to talk, you know? Who is responsible for Miku Binder Jefferson? Who created the internet? Technically, the internet was invented in 1970 by Robert Kahn and Vincent Cerf when they invented the Transmission Control Protocol and Internet Protocol, or TCP and IP if you're scared of syllables. But they're not the ones responsible for the way that we access the internet. That goes to Tim Berners-Lee, who, in 1990, invented the World Wide Web. Yes, it's a separate thing. The World Wide Web used a series of websites and hyperlinks to transfer data at breakneck speeds of 50 kilobits per second. Yes, kilobits. When it was created, the intention behind the internet was for more practical uses such as scientific or even military communication. And even in the 90s, when dial-up internet was sweeping the globe, no one could predict the impact that the internet would have on our society. Well, almost no one.
I don't think we've even seen the tip of the iceberg. I think the potential of what the internet is going to do to society, both good and bad, is unimaginable.
And truer words were never spoken. Just over 20 years later, the internet has created a digital Pangea which could connect people from all around the globe. And in a realm with no borders or time zones to speak of, users started to develop their own culture and, eventually, their own history. If you don't know what I'm talking about, think about all the dead social medias out there like Vine or MySpace, platforms that no longer hold any real presence online, but still live on in archives and in the memories of people that used them at the time. The internet is forever changing, and it really shows. As a collective, the common sense of humour online has gone from quirky and relatable to random for the sake of it to this. Don't laugh at that. But there's no better example of the internet's ever-changing nature than YouTube. In its formative years, the platform's homepage was ruled by vloggers, let's players, and homemade skits. Now though, the site has content made for all types of people, by all types of people, and its activity has blown up tenfold since its conception in 2005. By the end of 2020, YouTube recorded 2 billion active users per month. Of those users, approximately 230,000 of them had over 100,000 subscribers, and 22,000 of those had more than 1 million. Whether you like it or not, YouTube has become a medium that parallels the likes of TV and cinema, and the people behind these channels have amassed a following that they might not have otherwise. Just to reiterate here, these people are, in most cases, just that, ordinary people. A lot of the time, they make videos from the comfort of their own bedrooms simply because they enjoy doing so, but now they're doing it for audiences that can reach into the millions. The sudden realization that you now have an audience greater than the capacity of Wembley Stadium isn't something that anyone should be able to brush off lightly, and the implication that your viewers are influenced by anything you say publicly is bound to put a lot of pressure on someone. But as someone with exactly 44 subscribers on YouTube, I can't exactly tell you about the burdens of being a well-known YouTuber. But I know someone who can.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to The Right Opinion, the home of a twat with too much free time.
This is The Right Opinion, a British channel with over 1 million subscribers, and it's run by this guy here, James.
I'm James. I'm the host and creator of the Right Opinion YouTube channel, a channel which makes, I guess, documentary-style commentary videos on a plethora of YouTube subjects. I started it when my friends, 3 of them, put their money together to buy me a microphone. I started making content at that time, just calling out the government, because the government was shit. I made videos on that because I cared about it at the time. What I wanted to do was kind of, in a way, mix the more serious, like, political topics with a more casual tone.
James's early days on YouTube saw him focusing on political issues, something that's become more and more of a relevant talking point online. In recent years, social media has had a massive influence on modern politics, and platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and even Reddit have become, at times, breeding grounds for political discussion and opinion sharing, and James's channel was no different.
I think it's an outlet. It's one that allows an individual to have their views reach a larger audience, and perhaps one that's more amenable to their views than the environment that they're currently in. And yeah, I guess my content kind of shifted at one point, probably when I started studying abroad. I transferred to Amsterdam, and I found myself at odds with some of the students who were not happy on my singular political position on the European Union. After I changed universities, I left Amsterdam and I got a transfer to Groningen, and they let me start in the second year. I guess at that point I assessed what I had said and done on the channel and said, well, actually, no, that's not where I stand anymore. In essence, I came to the conclusion, well, I think it's much better to make video content calling out people who are just being pricks, rather than necessarily the content on very layered, multifaceted topics that could end up aging badly if my views evolve.
From a teenager sharing his thoughts on UK politics to an esteemed creator with millions of people watching each new upload, James's channel seemed to have gained more popularity in 4 years than any British Prime Minister has in their entire life. So what makes YouTubers and other online entertainers different from actors and daytime TV presenters?
I think it's the fact that they build a more personal connection with their audience through the platform. A lot of creators like speak to their viewers. They have that closer personal bond. I don't know if it's anything too complex, really. But when you watch a video, when you watch a Mr. Beast video, he feels like you feel his humanity.
But with the subscriber count growing, it was important to take into consideration the fact that James's growing audience wouldn't just be influenced by his videos, but also by his online presence.
I think a lot of people tell me, and one of the greatest things to hear from an audience member in particular is that my content helped evolve the way they think. Because for me, content is obviously not just about creating entertaining videos for viewers who may be in certain scenarios, but at the same time, it's about creating a new perspective or helping someone in a way that transforms the way they may look at something or look at the world in general. And for me, I think that's one of the greatest assets of my channel, because the way I do things is so meticulous and so careful and so intricate that there are a lot of things that one can pick up on and take forward in that scenario. There are a lot of situations that carry a lot of weight, and there's nothing that I'm necessarily prepared to avoid completely, unless there are possible legal issues, such as an ongoing case that may be influenced from the creation of such videos.
Sometimes having a career online can be very tense, and some of the platform's biggest creators have opened up about their experience of feeling burned out because of the constant stress they face regularly, even leading to some of YouTube's veterans quitting for good. And yet, as I mentioned, there are still billions of active users, because it's easy to focus on all the stress and the burdens that life online can have, but there's so much more to it. Being an online creator provides a connection to your audience in a way that no other career path can, and it's the reason that so many famous people have started using YouTube, TikTok, and even Twitch to start connecting with their fans. Because that's something that the internet does so well. It connects us, and it allows us to communicate with the people we look up to. Sure, internet fame can be a lot of pressure on those who have to live with it, but then again, so is any type of fame. That much has been true for centuries. What's important is what that fame is used for. In the case of James, he uses his influence to teach the importance of objective, logical thinking, whereas personalities and groups like Jacksepticeye and the Yogscast have used their audience to raise millions for charity. In the right hands, an online platform can change the world in amazing ways, and if you're lucky enough, the internet might even be able to change your life, or your career. Online marketing has been around for about as long as the internet itself, particularly for these large brands and corporations. And as traffic has started to flow more and more to social media websites and apps, corporations have started to see social media as a marketing tool. Now every large corporation, brand, and even some famous characters have their own Twitter accounts, some of them with millions of followers. But I'm a socialist, so hearing about how major corporations have manipulated online public forums just to generate a bit of extra revenue sounds about as pleasant as licking a hot coal. But that doesn't necessarily mean that all forms of social media marketing are inherently bad. In fact, there are some instances where extremely talented individuals have had their careers kickstarted because of their social media presence. Every dark fruits drinking white boy with a pair of Vans can tell you that Arctic Monkeys are one of the cornerstones of British indie music. But something that's not so well known about the band is the fact that they actually got a large portion of their earlier listeners through a fan-created MySpace page that featured some of their songs. This eventually led to their first two singles, I Bet You Look Good on the Dance Floor and When the Sun Goes Down, skyrocketing to #1 on the UK singles charts, and their debut album, Whatever People Say I Am That's What I'm Not, the album I just threw on the floor, becoming the fastest selling album in the UK at the time. Their success would create an ongoing trend for all modern musicians, which would cause them either to use social media to generate excitement for their next new release, or to allow small independent artists to develop an audience that they might not have otherwise. A recent example of this is the Croydon band Bears and Trees, I'm told to assure you aren't real bears. Due to them being unsigned until about October of 2020, the band used social media platforms such as YouTube, Twitter and TikTok to promote both themselves and their music. And since then, they've signed a deal with Counterintuitive Records, and they've amassed a huge, dedicated fan base who are always looking forward to each new release. As a band who have established most of their following online, the members of Bears and Trees have an insight into the culture of fandoms online in a way that very few people have. So naturally, I was extremely grateful when they agreed to talk with me about the impact that a social media presence can have on an evolving independent band.
I think that we grew up online pretty much. Like the music we got into a lot of like pop punk and like Midwest emo, which predominantly came from America and didn't really hit the UK so hard. So I don't know how we fell into that, but we kind of got into those communities secondhand, which is through like Tumblr mainly, and that like ethos of having an online community I think permeated our band and our presence, because we never really fit in here in the UK so well, so we just figured let's just get out there.
Yeah.
Do you think that it's quite like a necessity for bands and artists to create this online presence?
In the current culture, yes, 100%. Well, it does kind of depend, but I think that depend on the genre you're going for, because some like DIY bands are just like, oh, I'm only involved in my local community, I don't care about the wider world. But if you want to kind of permeate and grow, it's almost needed to have that online presence, I think, because the fact that the world is so connected in just online spaces over anything else at the moment, really, it kind of feels very necessary.
With their fan base rapidly growing due to their social media presence, Bears and Trees were starting to experience the receiving end of online fan culture.
We were on these forums in which you would kind of like love a band together in this kind of community sphere, but there was no kind of interaction from the artist to the fans, and so there would be kind of like arguments between them, and maybe more. I don't want to have any kind of like morality judgment, but like the the relationship was much more on a pedestal. Whereas I think what we want to do is we want to give a community where people feel seen, understood, and also kind of guided towards a fairly healthy space where everyone's kind of, you know, felt like they're understood and seen by us, and knowing that we aren't like celebrities who should be put on pedestals, but we're real people who you know, are as flawed as they are.
Do you think social media has given fans kind of this power that they've never had before?
I think that has been happening for a long while. Like, I think that there is, I can't think of any because I don't know, speculating wildly, that there have been fans of things that have sent letters in to be able to change stuff or pull things out, and I don't know, but I do see what you mean. There is, because there's more connectivity and there can be a greater snowball, a more easier way to kind of, maybe, I think it depends on the context.
It's good to like to obviously have that core fan group that are so dedicated, because you know, it's really supportive to us, and it encourages us to keep going and you know, to have new ideas and do all these things. But yeah, I guess it is like a pressure as well, because it's like these people have supported you and, you know, are really kind of integral to the band now, and it's like you don't want to disappoint them.
Do you think that being online helps people to find these sort of identities and communities that they feel they're a part of?
Yeah.
I think what Nick said about like Midwest emo is internet stops location being a barrier to community you can join. So you're able to, so people from, you know, we have our Spotify followers, we have more listeners in America than we do in the UK, even though we're a UK based band, you know. Wow. That kind of distance no longer becomes a barrier because the internet exists.
It gives you access to so many more people and communities and ideas, and you know, and by accessing more, you're gonna find more.
Bears and Trees have used social media to create an interconnected community of fans who not only support the band, but lift each other up, celebrating both what makes them unique and the shared experiences that bring them together. Communities like this are the backbone of social media, but they can also be integral to some people's lives, often helping to shape their own personal identities. For example, while LGBT representation is still rather lacking when it comes to mediums like TV and cinema, there are entire spaces on social media dedicated to celebrating these identities, some of which are very rarely mentioned on other platforms. This has led to more and more young people learning about them and learning that it's okay to identify with these different genders and sexualities. According to research done earlier this year, approximately 15.9% of people born between 1997 and 2002 are part of the LGBT community in some way. It's because of online communities like that of Bears and Trees that young people are able to feel comfortable with themselves while still being supported by people from all around the world.
Basically what I was just trying to get across is that no one is broken, that you are fine as you are, and also that no one ever has fully understood themselves. Life is a perpetual journey of finding out new things about yourself, and there's no such thing as a complete person, and so it's completely okay to not be finished on that journey because there's no end. It's a perpetual thing.
The internet is one of the most culturally impactful innovations of the last century. It's changed the way we look at entertainment, politics, even our own identities. But it's also a very powerful tool. Because of social media, we all now have our own soapboxes from which to declare our most heartfelt opinions. And those who've become successful on platforms like YouTube and Twitch have influence over masses of people. So many of us spend a large portion of our lives online, and because of that, we've shaped communities and movements dedicated to making the world we live in a better place. Oftentimes, the internet gets a pretty bad rap, and it's very easy to wonder what the world would look like without it. But after everything that the internet has done, some of the amazing things that have happened because of social media, I don't think I want to see a world without it. Do you?